but there's no way to know. It's here tomorrow and gone today. Every destination lays in wait along the way. And if you wonder why it's coming closer to you day by day, that's the way of the future.
Of Middle England. It's a place that's history can be traced back almost a millennia, with the small settlement of Corby being recorded in the Domesday Book in 1066. It was a small village for many centuries with a small iron works. This all changed in the late Victorian era with the discovery of very large iron ore reserves beneath the village and the surrounding areas. This, along with the Industrial Revolution, meant that there was a massive interest in the small village by large companies from around the world. In the end, it was the company of Stewart and Lloyd's that created and founded the steelworks that would go on to be a major part of Corby's history, including its ups and downs. It was in 1910 that Stewart and Lloyd's founded a small ironworks within the town and became employers to a large part of the village. But it was with this expansion of the ironworks into a combined steel and ironworks that Corby's town growth really started. With the creation of the steelworks came the need for workers, and they came from all over Great Britain and mainland Europe. And they didn't come alone. With many, many workers bringing down their large families, this caused the one small village's population of just over 1,500 in 1931 to explode to 12,000 by 1939. We asked some of the members of those families what it was like coming to Corby from different parts of the country.
I came here and worked in the steelworks. I was an apprentice when I first started working. So I saw a massive change in Corby over those years. In recent times we've seen, massive growth in the population. 10 years ago we set out on a very ambitious growth and regeneration program. And our ambition then was to increase the population of the town from what it was then at 50,000 to double that by 2030. We've witnessed a transformation of the town itself, which is continuing, as you can see. You can just look out behind you with the new cinema about to open and those restaurants. You can see the swimming pool, which has been there a couple of years now, and this building itself that we're in. All of this has really transformed the town centre of Corby, as indeed as the way this shopping centre.
Yeah, I'm Anthony Dady, Mayor of Corby. I've lived in Corby for almost 7 years now. It's been a very interesting time. I've loved doing it. I've actually, most of that time, actually been part of the council. It's over 4 years I've done that now. And yeah, just in those times, a lot of things have happened in Corby, a lot of redevelopment, regeneration, new projects, businesses coming to the town and so on. Of course, the one we're looking forward to at the moment in the next few weeks is the cinema that will be open with restaurants in there as well. Yeah, it's just in the time I've been here, the railway station's opened, the Cube, of course, where we are now, the swimming pool, several different academies, the new Tresham as well. Lots of different things, of course, have happened. Quite exciting, all the development that we've seen. And I hear people in lots of other neighbouring towns saying how much Corby has come on compared to other areas. And as well as that, there have been lots of businesses wanting to move here. And of course brought more employment and more variety of employment, which is good because particularly in the past, Corby was centred around the steelworks, and you've just got one major employer, of course. If something happens to that employer, it could cause a lot of problems.
It came to Corby in 1973, so I was 10 then. My parents came down from Scotland, from Glasgow actually, for work. They were looking for a lot better life, so that's why I came to Corby. It was great, We had a cinema. There was lots of open green spaces. It was really good. There was more to do here than there was in Glasgow, more freely available.
Our family came to Corby in 1973. Like many other families, it was to find work through that steelworks, but also it was very easy to find a council house at that particular time. and that was a big pull, the fact that we can have a nice family house. Although we came from a city, Aberdeen, my first initial memories of Corby were as a busy, industrious centre really. Although it was smaller, everybody used the same markets, used the same shops, so generally you knew everybody in the town as you met in the town centre.
The town continued to grow and prosper even throughout the war, with it playing a major role in the success of the war effort with introducing Pluto. This was the pipeline under the ocean which helped to fuel the Allied invasion after D-Day. The post-war era saw even further expansion of the steelworks and of Corby in general, with lots of new immigrants coming to the town, with the majority from Scotland, but also as far as Romania and Latvia. This increase in population led to Corby becoming one of the first wave of new towns. These were created to help bring in more people out of major cities. The downfall of the steelworks started with the nationalisation of the steel industry, and the factories in Corby became part of British Steel. This started to affect the town, and when the government decided that the steel production in Corby was no longer needed and the works should be closed down. This meant that in 1981, 5,000 workers were let go from the company, and over the next few years, this number only grew until it reached over 11,000. This was a huge blow to the town and caused the unemployment rates to rise to 30%.
And of course, when the steelworks closed, there's a lot of unemployment, and that's affected things even up till now. We see elements of unemployment or people perhaps with one particular skill set. And those are, of course, things that we want to work on to make sure that there is that broader field of education and experience and opportunity.
Things were bleak for the town over the next few years, but due to the hard work and of the people of the town, as well as the town itself being designated an enterprise zone by the government, it managed to bounce back to a fairly successful town in the 1990s, though it still had its share of problems, especially in its infrastructure, with it holding the dubious title of the largest town in Europe without a train station. But with the start of a new millennium, the outlook for Corby started to seem more promising, with the formation of a new group called Catalyst Corby, which was set up to help revitalise the town, and it has been a major success, with the town now boasting a new town centre along with a rail station, swimming pool and the Cube. The growth of Corby will hopefully not stop there, with many more plans for how to improve the town happening all the time.
I think it's been really good. Well, as I said, a lot more investment coming into the town. We've got a new cinema, new shopping centre, a lot nicer place with a train station. The town's on the up, I think they're doing really well.
I think in many ways the town itself has gone a complete circle. When we first arrived in the 70s, there was a large immigration force, albeit mostly Welsh, Irish, and particularly Scottish. I think in recent years we've seen that immigration come again, possibly not from the UK but from Eastern Europe. And I think it's just a complete circle of the identity of the town. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. There's still ample opportunity to work, albeit not in high-skilled jobs. But I genuinely believe that anybody who comes to Corby will find a job if they really want.
Corby has for a long time been one of the fastest growing places in the country, and that's one thing I see continuing on into the future. That's certainly our plan, is to bring increased housing and employment and all the other infrastructure, schools, roads and so on that would be necessary. But that's a great thing about Corby, is the spirit of optimism, but also the spirit of wanting to achieve things. And I think that's one reason why lots of businesses have wanted to invest here, because they see what we've done. Some of the projects which the council has spent money on, of course you can't exactly quantify it, but you might say, well, maybe some of these new businesses that have come in that wanted to relocate here wouldn't have done that if they hadn't seen the type of place that Corby is, with its eye on the future, wanting to be a world-class place.
With all these new improvements to the town, there is very little doubt that the area will continue to be a town that people will be proud to call their home.